while we're talking just some of these kind of not minor issues, but kind of points around the edges, hardback or softback? Paperback? Does it matter?
So Bites at the Cherry. We're talking Bites at the Cherry. So this is out in hardback now, and I will promote it till the cows come home. And then in a year, we're going to make it a paperback. So that next year, I have another Bite at the Cherry. Now get the paperback edition. I think you've got to think about an ebook edition. So there is a Kindle edition. So if you go online to Amazon, you can find the hardback, but you can also get the Kindle, which is about half price, because a lot of people now are reading on Kindles. So I think you also should consider audiobook. So one of the things we're doing is I'm recording myself reading this. So the way I work in terms of workflow is create video, rip off the MP3, it's a technical term, take off the MP3 and put that onto iTunes as a podcast. You can then transcribe stuff. So my workflow for creating books is video interviews with people, take off the MP3s and create podcasts, transcribe that using a software platform called Temi, TEMI.com. You can have an hour's interview with someone transcribed in seconds, in a couple of minutes for a few dollars. So it's a brilliant service. So then I will publish the transcript. So over the course of a year, I have the article, the transcript, the podcast, the video, then the hardback, and then I will probably recycle all of that prepared content, and then publish the paperback next year. So hardback first, then paperback. The other thing to consider is, because we do a lot of interviews, is then bundle those interviews together to create a training program. So I mentioned the live stream that I did last year. We're at 12 hours of live stream. So we're now, because people got a lot out of that, we're turning that into another book called You Should Write a Book. Called Now Write a Book. You Should Write a Book is about the why and the reasoning behind it. Now Write a Book is all the practical details. So what you begin to find is that you start creating content that is so central to your business. It's not just, you said earlier, how do I find the time in my business to write a book? As if it's a bolt-on piece of content for us. And I would say for anybody in the knowledge business, your book is your business. Because it's driving value creation for your core audience, whether that's people you want to train or people you want to inspire or people you're trying to service in some other way. You're creating marketing content. Instead of writing a blog and then compiling it into a book and trying to edit it and force it into some shape, you create the book first. So instead of blogging your book, I would say book your blog. The content marketing comes second. But everything that you then create is strategic. It's focused on the problem that you're trying to solve for your readers. Hardback, paperback, they're just elements of keeping your vision and your story, your FP stories, in the client's eyes. Because ultimately, a book helps you to be everywhere now. If you Google me, I'm like all over the internet. And frankly, for the last year, it's been just this one project. Right. So the book is our business. The book is this project. The book helps us get into facilities management industry. The book helps us serve the human resources community. The book helps us. A couple of really interesting projects recently were writing legacy books. A young student of mine sadly passed away, and I offered to his parents to tell his story. So we wrote something called The CEO's Journey. So that's a legacy journey for an individual. We gave away our rights to the revenue to the guy's family. He had 3 young daughters under 10 when he passed away. I mean, it was a tragedy on an awesome personal scale. So it is a legacy story. It's not our legacy story, but it's someone else's legacy story. And that's just been a wonderful experience to help other people to kind of go through the process of, many of your colleagues will be dealing with, wealth issues or family or legacy issues. So for us, it's not just about the commercial aspects. It is about making a difference. It is about, through your words, creating an enduring legacy of work that will touch people for years to come. This is coming up to 10 years since the guy passed away. We're going to issue a new edition of this, translated different editions. So all sorts of different reasons to write books. But if you're in the knowledge business, this should be a central part of how you communicate your values and vision to the world. No doubt about it.
Right. Okay. Thank you. So we talked a little bit about potential income. Let's talk about the outgoings, the cost to come to market. I think that may be of a concern to some of our viewers and members. There's a time cost, obviously, in putting it together. But what does it cost? We've heard that traditional publishers, it's kind of back end charged. They do it up front. But if you were coming to self-publish, what might you be looking at cost wise?
So you've got to see self-pub. So if working with a traditional publisher is pay in arrears or pay out of your earnings, if you like, or pay after publishing, self-publishing is pay as you go. So you've got to kind of think about your lost time for doing whatever interviews or research you want. So at frankly, in all of these, your time is going to be the same pretty much, except if you completely self-publish. If you go with the least cost, the lowest cost way, then it's going to cost you the most time. Now, I can't price your time. How much do you value your time is a tough call. So self-publishing is for someone who wants to get their book out and really wants to minimize the costs. Then that's the way to go. But you should consider paying for a decent cover. So having an artist work in Photoshop, create a decent cover is you can spend as much as you want, but I would be tempted to spend about £500, $600-700 to get a really good cover. There's an art to it, what goes on, how it's going to look not just on the shelf, but frankly, digitally. So the front cover, when it's reduced to Amazon size, thumbnail size, it's still got to have a visible image and a shape. A mistake that we made with one book was we created a book with a white cover. Some years, this is a facilities management. So on an Amazon page, that just kind of disappears into the background.
Oh, right. Okay.
Since then, forever, we've spent money on great design because it matters. So you've got to talk about cover design. You can edit yourself. I would urge you to pay for an editor. Not a proofreader. I mean, yes, a proofreader, you also need someone who'll spell check for you later. But an editor is someone who'll say, in the early part of the book, in chapter 1, you said later on we'll address X, Y, and Z. And you never actually got to that. Or they'll say chapter 3 should really be chapter 1 and So an editor will look at the narrative arc of a book and actually will give you some real insights into you've written the wrong book here. And actually that happened to us with the You Should Write a Book. We started writing the how-to book, but realized that we needed to write the why write a book first. So I think...
Where would you find an editor, Stephen?
There is a wonderful book called The Writers and Artists Yearbook.
Ah, there we go. Yeah.
So editors are in there. There's also something called the Alliance of Independent Publishers and Editors. So I'll give you some links to that as well. Right. So there's an association in the UK, and I think there's the same in the US. Another place to go is a service called Upwork. upwork.com. So editors all over the world offer to edit for you, and you can either pay per hour or offer a flat fee. And I would always offer a flat fee. The thing people foul up with on getting freelancers on an online site is never testing. So I would urge you, give them something to read, give them a short article as part of your selection process. One thing I've done in the past is give someone an MP3, for example, a sound file with my name, in it. I want to see if somebody transcribes my name correctly and can find me on the web and spell it correctly. So if you want to test if somebody's a good editor, give them something to edit. Give them an early article that you wrote, or a couple of thousand words. Not fair to give them more than that. But the thing is, if they're keen to work with you or for you, they will do the test. If they're not keen to do the test, then that's kind of telling you something anyway. So on Upwork.com, I would always upload a test, something for them to do. So flat fee could be £5,000 or £6,000 to do an edit. You're talking about a week, maybe 2 weeks, solid work, reading
Right.
30, 40, 50,000 words, making recommendations to you. So a good editor will cost you, but it is so worth it. So worth it. You do not want your book to be another one of those awful books in the marketplace, because your reputation is at stake. You talked about, the suggested title for this was something you came up with: Books Build Brands. How much is your brand worth? The editor is something you should not skimp on, because we're putting your IP in the hands of your aspirational clients. It's got to be good.
It's got to be good.
It's got to be good.
Okay.
You may have some proofreading costs. If you're going to then print it, you're going to have to find a printer local to you, ideally, or in the country where you live. And I would urge you to print a few copies, a couple of hundred copies, rather than 3,000, 4,000, 5,000. So print batches. So we're in the launch process of this. So we've just printed 350, which will pretty much all go to Amazon, plus to our guests. And when we have online seminars and other launches, we will print off another 350. So depends how many copies you want, but this will cost you £2. So
Right.
if you have 100 copies you want to give away to family and friends or to great clients, 200 quid for 100 copies.